Let's talk about one of the most stressful moments at work. When your boss says something and in your head you're like, that's not right. That's unrealistic. We can't do that. Or I think that idea is going to blow up on us. But out loud, you say, okay, sounds good. And then you turn around and you go vent with your work bestie. If that's you, if that sounds familiar at all, then this episode is for you. Let's get to it.
Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome back to Ordinary to Badass, the podcast where women in predominantly male industries learn to rise, lead, and own their power without apology. Okay, so lots has been going on in my world. Let's talk about what felt ordinary and what felt badass. What felt ordinary? Lots has been going on. So much. And it's exciting, but not exciting. It's very ordinary. And we'll get to the exciting or the badass part, but what has felt ordinary is like, I have just been working. I have been working so dang much, and I'm just sitting here plugging away. I've been working just a ton of hours, and then get home and I'm plugging away on ordinary to badass stuff, not complaining because I absolutely love it. But it's just the everyday, like just putting in the hours, putting in the time, trying to get things done. And so that really has felt very ordinary. Like I don't feel like I have a lot of time, not a lot of spare time anyway. But on the flip side of that, what's felt badass is that I'm feeling forward momentum. And listen, I gotta tell you, I started ordinary to badass not knowing anything about business, not knowing anything about podcasting, all the things. I had no freaking clue. Like, even just the bare minimum things, at least for running an online business, I have no idea. Listen, I'm just a dumb cop, right? All I knew was my cop world stuff. I don't even think that I knew how to do anything beyond Google and Amazon. That was it. Sounds ridiculous when I'm saying it out loud now, but that is actually true. I didn't know how to do anything on the internet except for Google and Amazon. My two things. So I'll be the first to tell you, in many ways, my business has felt scattered all over the place. But it hasn't been for lack of effort. It's just that I didn't know better. And I had such a huge learning curve, and that's okay. And it's like, you know what? Good thing I didn't know in the beginning, because if I had known how hard it was, I probably would have been like, no, not doing it. So sometimes ignorance is your friend. It helps you out. It helps you keep going because you don't know what you're in for. So now I see things coming together, and that feels pretty amazing. And what? It's 2026, so probably 8 years in on Ordinary to Badass, and I just now feel like I'm figuring some of it out. It sounds funny. It's been a journey, and you just learn at your own pace, right? You just take one little tiny piece of the puzzle and you figure it out. And you just keep going, figure out another piece, figure out another piece. And then eventually it's got to come together, right? That's one of my strong suits. I am super stubborn. So, which, by the way, I have something really exciting I can't wait to tell you about. So hopefully next week's episode, you will hear more about it. But definitely, if you want hints and you want the advantage over everybody else, head Ordinary to Badass on Instagram or at Ordinary to Badass on Instagram and check it out. You'll be learning more through there. Or at the end of this episode, I'll tell you how you can kind of get a sneak peek. And yeah, you'll get a sneak peek before even the people on Instagram. And I am excited. I am super excited. But let's get to the episode. I'll tell you more about that later. Yeah, I just feel energy around it and think it's going to be a good thing and can't wait to get it started. But to circle back around to feeling so scattered, I just want to remind you that if you feel scattered, you are still a badass. There is nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you're that you've made a mistake or you've done everything wrong. It doesn't mean you can't recover. It doesn't mean that you're dumb or an idiot, or because like sometimes I'm like, oh, why can't I figure this out? I'm so dumb. And although I try not to talk to myself that way, those moments seep in, right? And it just, things can feel so frustrating. So I just want to remind you that you are a badass. Keep plugging away. If you feel called to do something, if you have a passion for something, keep listening to it. If you kind of have a pull or tug on your heart to do something, but you're not seeing the results you want to, or you feel scattered and all over the place, that's okay. You don't have to be at the end place right now. And you know what? Honestly, the things that have come easy in my life, I tend not to appreciate. But the things that I have worked hard for, like, dang, I am proud of myself for ordinary badass. I will say that absolutely, because never did I ever think I would be a podcast host or that I would be on social media. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have even seen me taking a picture. Never. I did not take pictures of myself. Even like family photos, that kind of nope. No, wanted no part of it. And people would take pictures like at holidays or whatever, and I would like put my hand in front of the camera because I didn't want it. Because I didn't want to be in that picture. And I was too mortified, like too critical of myself and how I looked and all the things. And so you can change. Your life situation can change. Yeah, I don't even know how I went on that tangent, but I'm just super passionate that you start to recognize the badass that you are and quit being so stinking hard on yourself. Quit being so critical of yourself. All right. In this episode, we're talking about how to push back on your boss without tanking your reputation. Okay. Part one, why pushback feels so hard. Women, we are taught to be agreeable and to keep the peace, especially in predominantly male spaces. It's like because we stand out so much because we're different, right? And there are so many things that we're balancing at work. It's like respect, job security, reputation, confidence, all the things. Having to be the office mom. I say that in quotes, but often we get put in women type roles, even if you're in a predominantly male industry. And so it can be hard. It's like men are taught to be direct, to just be direct, be strategic, and women, agreeable, friendly, peacekeepers, all those things. So if you find it hard to push back against your boss or to say, no, that's not a good idea, or what do you think about this idea? To at all push back on them or the ideas that they're presenting, if you find that hard, you are not alone. No wonder you find it hard. We're dealing with so many different dynamics. It's like, how are you supposed to know? Kind of like I was talking earlier with business. I just didn't know. I didn't have anybody to teach me or train me, and it wasn't my background. How was I to know? You don't know what you don't know. And so if you are a woman in a predominantly male industry, or even if you're a leader, it's only 20% of women in the workforce become leaders or supervisors, right? So automatically you're in a different situation than everybody else. But I want to remind you, you're not weak. You're strategic. And you've never been taught how to disagree without having negative consequences. Okay, now I want to talk about the second part, 3 ways that pushback goes wrong. The first way is that we go on the apology spiral. And I'm just going to tell you, this one's a pet peeve for me. And I used to be the biggest culprit of it. We often say things like, sorry, I'm probably wrong, but. And what your boss hears, how that translates is, please don't fire me. I'm just happy to be here. Oh, hee hee hee. Here's the thing. We apologize for having ideas, for taking up space, asking questions, for needing time, for doing our actual job. Listen, it's my pet peeve, and maybe it's because I used to say it or I would catch myself saying it and made myself stop. But in my office, I actually do joke around about having a sorry jar. Every unnecessary sorry, you owe $1. I'll tell you, I haven't enforced it yet, but the message is clear. Quit apologizing when you didn't do anything wrong. Stop apologizing for existing. Save your sorries for when you have actually messed up. Missed a deadline? Sorry. Gave the wrong info? Sorry. Snapped at someone? Sorry. But this I'm sorry to bother you crap, or I'm sorry, but this might be a dumb question. I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask. Nope, enough. I can't stand it. Saying sorry about everything, that erodes your confidence over time. Listen, I don't care if you say the other S word shit, but just don't say sorry around me. Okay, the second mistake is the emotion dump. When feelings replace strategy. This happens when you push back against your boss and all you talk about is your feelings. And let me just say, this doesn't mean your feelings aren't valid, but it doesn't get your point across. So you might say something like, I just feel overwhelmed. This doesn't feel fair. This is stressing me out. I'm frustrated because no one will listen. I'm honestly just upset about this. All of those things are true. They're all valid. But you know what? They're all not very persuasive. Why? Because all you've told them is how you feel, but you haven't made it clear what needs to change or what specifically is bothering you. So let's talk about what's actually happening here. You're probably doing an emotion dump thinking if they understand this, then they'll fix it. They're going to take care of the problem. So you open up the emotional floodgates. And then your boss, they hear, okay, they're emotional. Noted. And then they're like, okay, back to business. There's no action taken. There's no shift. Nothing changes. It's just awkward empathy. So let's give an example, a bad example, something you don't want to do, but this happens often, right? Your boss says, I need you to take this project on, in addition to your million other duties, right? And you say, I just feel really overwhelmed lately and it's been really hard and I'm trying my best, but honestly, it's a lot. And then your boss is like, yeah, I know you're busy right now. And then proceeds to give you the project. Okay, now let's go through the same situation, but the power move. So your boss tries to give you a project and you say, hey, I'm at capacity right now with X and Y. If I take this on, Z will be delayed. Which would you like me to prioritize? If you say that, you're going to come off as calm, professional, strategic, very human, but you're letting your boss know and they're going to make the decision of what they want you to prioritize. This prevents you from oversharing, from having to apologize, saying the F word, and you don't have resentment later because you actually spoke up for yourself and you put the ball in your boss's court. I just want to remind you that your feelings are valid. They're just not persuasive. They're not specific enough. Feelings don't give you leverage. They create sympathy, but oftentimes they don't create any change. And sympathy, it doesn't protect your time, your energy, or your boundaries. I just feel like this isn't fair. When you say something like that, valid, but not persuasive. Okay, let's talk about the third mistake, the silent yes. You respond and say, okay, that's it. That's the response. Meanwhile, you sit there and you resent your boss for 6 months. And this one is sneaky toxic. Because on the outside, you appear easy to work with. You're helpful, flexible, total team player. But on the inside, it eats you up. You're exhausted, frustrated, and you're quietly keeping the score. That is people pleasing in a blazer. And then behind the scenes, we're like, why do we keep getting things piled up on us? Why are we getting steamrolled? If you don't set boundaries, people will assume you don't have any, or they will set the rules for you if you don't have clear guidelines or clear boundaries. But here's the truth. If you're saying yes when it's not realistic, when there's a big red flag waving in front of you, when you know things are going to blow up, that's not being helpful. That's setting everyone up for failure. Your boss would probably rather hear, this isn't doable as it is. He wants to hear that now, not 2 days before the deadline. At that point, there's no time to pivot. And let's be honest here, your sanity matters. Holding it in, it doesn't make you professional. It makes you bitter. So when you speak up early, you protect your work, your reputation, and your mental health. And you don't have to carry resentment around like it's your luggage. Like it or not, it's going to piss you off. Like keeping that stuff in, it pisses you off. And then it's easy to be negative. So a quiet yes today leads to loud burnout later. What do you prefer? It's up to you. The choice is yours. So let's do a quick recap of the three mistakes. One, over apologizing and then you shrink. Two, doing the emotional dump and you vent. Three, you give the silent yes and you explode later. None of these options build authority. Okay, let's talk about the pushback framework, how you can start to push back against your boss. So we're going to use the calm method here, the calm pushback method. For the C, you clarify. Ask your boss before opposing. Ask any clarifying questions. Align. Let your boss know that you were on the same side as him or her. Lead with impact. Talk about outcomes, not feelings. M, make a request. Walk through examples without quotes. So, for example, instead of saying what you feel, you position it around results. So instead of saying, I don't like this, make sure that you connect something to your priorities or to the company's priorities. So let's do a quick recap of the calm pushback method. Clarify, align, lead with impact, and make a request. Okay, moving on to part 4. I'm just going to talk about some scenario types that I've had to push back against a boss. And there have been many. I'm sure this doesn't even scrape the surface of it. But like when I've been given an unrealistic deadline, like, you know what? I have so much work. This is like a whole other job on itself. What do you want me to do here? Kind of like we talked about. What do you want me to prioritize? I've had to talk to them about being left out of decisions and finding out about it in a meeting. It was a big group meeting and I found out my job has changed and nobody told me. Somebody else was taking it over and nobody bothered coming to me to tell me. That was frustrating, annoying, right? Like, oh, what a wonderful way to find out. Somebody else takes credit for my idea or my boss takes credit for my idea. When I've had extra work dumped on me, talk to him about that. Or there's been times where I've disagreed with policy. And so I had to have a conversation about that. And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes I have even said, you know what, boss, this is your decision. I might not agree with it. It's absolutely up to you. Here's my opinion, but we'll go with what you say, ultimately. I think the big thing to remember here is your boss isn't a mind reader. Vague feelings will get you vague results. Specific information is when real change can happen. So if you're unclear and you're conveying an unclear message, you're just volunteering, hey, misunderstand me, ignore what I have to say. So ultimately, it's in your control to speak in a way where they will listen to you, where they understand you. And honestly, this whole thing with pushing back against your boss and speaking clearly to your boss, it's like a GPS. So imagine that you open Google Maps and instead of typing in an address, you just type in there, I feel lost. What happens? Absolutely nothing. No route, no direction, no ETA. It just sits there. Nothing changes, nothing moves. Maybe they even tell you they can't detect the address. But either way, it doesn't get you the result that you're looking for. And that's what emotional pushback at work sounds like. I'm overwhelmed. I'm frustrated. This feels unfair. Cool. Where are we going? Let's take this one step further. When you are specific, you're giving your boss GPS coordinates. With the current workload, this project will take 3 weeks, not 1. If you need it in 1, I'll need support on X. Now, your boss can actually reroute. They can change the direction. Pivot a little bit, right? Okay, let's talk about part 5, why most people fail at pushing back against their boss. Here's the truth. Most leaders, they don't fail because they're bad at their job. They fail because in the moment when they get in these tough situations, their mind goes blank. Yep, you don't rise to the occasion, you fail to your preparation. And you know what? Honestly, that's why I'm building something behind the scenes. That's why I'm working to fix this issue because I'm so stinking passionate about it. And you know what? I've been that girl. I have been the one where my mind has went blank so many times. But the more experience you get having these conversations, pushing back against your boss, the more times you do it, becomes just a little bit easier. Even if you feel there's times still where I feel like wildly uncomfortable, but I'm like, Marie, you have to do this. This is what I'm saying in my head, right? And it becomes just a little bit easier every single time. And I honestly think that you become more respected when you can push back in a professional way. And let me tell you, I've had to politely push back on my bosses more times than I can count. And nobody prepares you for that part of leadership. Who's going to teach you? Your boss? And sometimes it's not one dramatic moment. It's having to present the same idea 5 different ways or in 5 different meetings before it finally lands. And sometimes it's finding a way to say, I'm not really comfortable with that without sounding difficult. Other times it's sharing your idea and positioning it like it's in your boss's best interest or it's in the company's best interest. Find a way that it benefits them. Let's be honest, it's annoying. Sometimes it's very annoying, but also it's a real leadership skill. I'd rather do that than blow up at my boss if I'm irritated every single time or blow up at people I work with. I would rather do it in a way that feels aligned with who I am. So I'm telling you, I've had to learn to do all this stuff the hard way. Through trials, mistakes, through thinking it through, asking my dad for advice. But I've always thought there has to be a better way. So I put something together for you. It's a free guide. Work scripts, push back on your boss without burning bridges. It's packed with real phrases that you can actually use to hold a boundary or even to advocate for yourself without creating tension. And you can grab it right now at stan.store/ordinary to badass. So stan.store/ordinary to badass. Download it, save it, keep it, review it for the next hard conversation, or maybe use it for the next time you're in a meeting and you have to have a hard conversation with your boss afterwards without blowing up. Because you deserve language that works for you, not against you. And in there, you're going to get a sneak peek of what's coming up, this thing I keep alluding to in this episode that I'm super excited about. So you'll find out a little bit about that. And yeah, head on over to stan.store/ordinary to badass. If you've ever felt small in a room that you deserve to be in, if you've ever swallowed your voice, this is your season to stop doing that. You don't need to be louder. You need better language. And my friend, that's coming. And I'm so stinking excited. Remember, keep showing up, keep speaking up, and never, ever shrink for a seat at the table because you were born to build it. And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.